Okay, we should be started. I think, are people hearing me all right? Natasha, confirmation. Sound is on, looking good. Jeff, welcome, my friend. I'm gonna pour a little Parat first. There we go.
Then I'm already ahead. My beer is poured already. I have a Monk's Grand Cru.
Very nice. I'm going right for the big hitter in Parat. I'm using a little shout out to some on-premise customers whenever I can, but this is from Small City Tap House in Sandusky, Ohio. What's up, guys?
How come that you don't have the right glassware?
Because I'm trying to support customers too. That's what I do too. Together we can. So, all right, we're gonna get started. Everyone's pouring in, which is great. Take it from the top. So we're at the Global Beer Brewery Tour webinars. We're coming to the end of the road here, guys. This was an unbelievable experience. Culminating essentially with Jeff was definitely a little bit part of the plan because he's got the great space for it. So excited to give you this experience today. But like I said, this was originally meant to be added value to retail customers, added value to consumers looking to experience more when they buy a beer. So thank you guys for attending. Hope you enjoy the show. So obviously we have Jeff Versele from Brouwerij Van Steenberge. He is one of our longest partners. Without Jeff, there's no global beer network. Gulden Draak and Parat were the beers that we forged ahead with to pave the way for strong beers and Belgian beers, but also Flemish sours. So really excited to get into this sampler pack today. This was the package for Global Beer Network that really allowed us to get into off-premise accounts and give people a sampling opportunity to not only drink the range of one brewery, but a range of styles that are indicative to Flemish beer. So Jeff, we're gonna go toward these, but unbelievable awards that you've gotten through all these brands to have this many in your range, over 90 from Rate Beer and Beer Advocate. I peppered them. It really is amazing. So it's a 6-pack at price like a 4-pack, and it's an unbelievable value. So definitely excited to get things going. Just a quick shout out to 11 years ago, Jeff, we met at the Public House in Boston, and I was running a beer store. So we've come a long way, obviously, from just starting to drink Parat and Gulden Draak. There's been amazing experiences in Belgium. On the bottom right, guys, you see Dalgriet, where Jeff makes a beer, I believe, of what, 8%, the max? How much is that beer, Jeff?
Max is 8%, exactly, yeah.
And they take your shoes and you don't get them back till you finish the beer. So that was one of my first.
Otherwise, that you would not steal the glass. It's to be sure that you will not steal the glass.
That's
an account selling roughly weekly. He goes over quarter barrel kegs, about 25 to 30 a week.
It's a lot of strong beer. So Jeff, obviously you're live from Ertveld, which is about 15-20 minutes north of Ghent, just 20 minutes north of Dalgriet, the bar. So talk to us a little bit about Ertveld, the small village you're in, and let's get this thing started.
So first of all, I would like to congratulate you with your fathership. You became a father, so you're not a boy anymore. Now you're a real man. So cheers to that.
Mason Alfred.
I would like to thank all my friends, customers, and all our fans of Van Steenberge. Welcome. It's a pleasure for doing this for the first time. You're never too old to learn something. So even myself, I'm following the new techniques to stay in touch with my beloved fans and with our customers, because when we make beer, we do make beer for you guys. And it's always a pleasure to speak to you directly. So let's go into it, and let's speak a little bit for those who don't know our brewery yet. I'm a privileged guy, so I'm the lucky guy. I'm the 6th generation brewer at the Van Steenberge Brewery, and our brewery has been founded in 1784. So if I'm not mistaken, our brewery is older than your constitution. And if you look at the picture, you see there's a brick in our brewery which goes back to 1611. So the brewery, or the location, is already much older. So it's unbelievable that this brewery has been on this location for so many years, and I'm grateful to my ancestors, to my family, that I have the privilege today to speak to you and to speak about these phenomenal beers, and it's a real honor to be with you tonight.
Awesome, great. And that's your pub down in the bottom. And usually when we get started, back in the old days before your expansion, you've obviously invested a lot in your brewery in the last 5, 6, 7 years. But that was your welcome spot, which was the old carriage house. Still a nice little pub to get things started. But we'll get things to the modern Bar Baptiste shortly. But as you see, go ahead.
If I could interrupt you, as you know, if the walls could speak, many stories have been told there. So from time to time, I miss the old bar, but I do frequently visit the old bar because I don't have to walk the stairs up to the new bar. Going up, it's not a problem. The problem that I have is mainly going down, certainly when you're a producer of strong beer. But what I do like is the picture above on your right side. There you see the old maltery. We used to have our own maltery here at the brewery, but my grandfather had to stop that maltery in the first oil crisis in '75, and then it became so expensive to make our own malt. So then we expanded. But that picture dates from 1970, and as you see, the old trucks. So the brewery was living from direct supplies to our own pub. As you know, in Belgium, you can only sell your beer if you also own the pub. And in those days, I think in 1970, we used to run more than 185 bars. Today, this has slightly changed.
Yeah, so is the brewery. So talk a little bit about those investments and some of the changes you've had in the coming years, or in the previous years.
So we started with a whole new project. So we started in 1998. My grandfather started to build a whole new brew house. It was the first completely automatic brew house which was installed in Europe. At that time, imagine we were brewing less than 15,000 barrels. And my grandfather bought a brew house which had the capacity of 240,000 barrels. If you think that, if you believe in the future, this guy, he was certainly believing in the future, because the brewery that he bought, it was built on expansion. Nevertheless, that you have to know, for those who have been here, we are in the city center of Ertvelde, and it is not that easy to get to build a brewery with that capacity. I always remember the stories when my grandfather spoke to me. He never spoke about volume. He always spoke about the amount of tons of malt that you were buying. And he said, Jeff, if we would reach 100,000 kilos of Pilsner malt, this would be also already something. And he was always comparing with other brewers like we had, like the Kruger Brewery here in this area. And for him, this was the leading brewery. And today I can say the Kruger Brewery has been taken over by InBev. And we are still the only one who is independent in this area, but we do produce 180,000 barrels. So I'm getting there. So I still have some space to expand. Although my grandfather, he was the only thing I want to say is my grandfather, he was really a visionary. He had guts, and he wanted to build on the future. But to be honest, if I would be standing in his shoes, doing such an investment at that time, oh my God. But now today, of course, I'm very grateful to him, and I say chapeau.
So good start.
Thank you. Thank you. So, like I said, so for us, it's important. So we have made this build below. So this is what we stand for, what the brewery is all about. So we are very proud of our history. The history is something which defines us from other craft breweries. So we are making beer for more than 200 years already. So which is insane. So I always speak to people when they say, Jeff, I don't have any blood in my system. I have beer in my system. The first beer that I had, that was when I was born, to the breast of my mother. So this is something which is in my system. It's all about passion. It's all about those 6 generations of passion. That's the only thing that made us what we are today. It's because of the hard work of the previous generations that we had before us that we were able to survive different crises like we have today. So that's why I'm very proud of what they have done, and they have made good decisions, and always believe in one thing, and the most important thing, which is quality, of course. We have been a brewery which has been always a little bit different from others. We are the brewery who is making things what somebody else is not making, because we do believe when we make something that everybody is making, there's no market for us. So has been how I have been raised, and this is what I do believe for and what we stand for. So we also believe in moments. So we always think when we meet other people, there's always something new can be built, and that's why when we receive people, we want to give them a good feeling. Those who have been here into my brewery, they know that they are treated like kings, and
Yeah,
that
we'll see a lot of images throughout this presentation of very happy people and great hospitality on your end. So
it's important, because we do think that it's important. I always say when I receive Americans, it's how crazy can you be to travel to Europe to discover a brewery? Then I give them the most respect that I can and show them and share them my passion, because that's what it's all about. And at the end, I do believe that they will tell this story to their friends, and it will help our brand at the end. Like I said, when I started in '99 to work for my grandfather, I started to sell by the bottle. From the bottle, you go to the 4-pack. From the 4-pack, you go to the half case. From the half case, you go to the crate. From the crate, you go to the layer. From the layer, you go to the half pallet, and you continue like that. So you may never forget from where you come. And it's because we have true fans, authentic fans, who built this brewery. I'm just one of the bricks of this brewery who is helping to develop this, but I think it's thanks to you, our customers, that we are what we are today. And this we have been developing with all our collaborators. In this brewery today, we work with 48 people, which are all passionate people who are going to stand up with beer, who goes to bed with beer. Without them, this story would be impossible. And that's also focus is mainly also on the export market. We are a little bit exported orientated. We do believe that to have the best beer, you need to have the best quality of raw materials. You need to be sustainable. And of course, we try to make unique beers. We are specialized in high fermentation. We are specialized in refermentation, not only refermentation in the bottle, but also in the keg. And that distinguishes us from other breweries. And we try to make beers who are different from all the others. Yeah. So like this, I would like to welcome you in our Bar Baptiste. Bar Baptiste, it is something which we created about 4 years ago. I wanted so we were building a new fermentation room, and I wanted to have a rooftop bar in which I could receive my customers, and I named the bar after the founder of the brewery, Jan Baptiste de Bruin. So I'm very pleased that I can welcome you in our Bar Baptiste. And it's an honor for me to have this place, and I would like to invite you all in the years to come and have a beer with me in this beautiful bar.
It's pretty cozy right now because it's a little bit dark in there. It looks like you're in the Dragon's Den itself. Maybe you can introduce everyone. Everybody wants to know who is back tending bar right now. Maybe you can introduce Ellen real quick.
Ellen is our new head of sales and head of marketing. So she just joined the club in the beginning of April. So we had, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we were lucky that we had a lot of time to spend and to think about what we are going to do for in the years to come. So I'm very pleased to have her with us.
Well, I'm sure she does a lot more than just pour great beer, but obviously we're going to get to our first one. A lot of people are saying hello, but a special shout out to Ileana from Lowlands, who's saying hello to both of us. So cheers, Ileana. How are you? Hope all is well.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers. So let's get to the first beer. You said you were drinking Monk's Cafe Grand Cru. So maybe you talk to us about what's the difference between the original Monk's, which was the beer that really has helped set off the sour boom in the U.S., but obviously you took it up to another level with the Monk's Grand Cru.
Like with a lot of our beers, but like I said, so the first original specialty beer which we had in our brewery was the Bios Vlaamse Bourgogne. I will speak a little bit more about that later, but the rest, the concept of the beer is almost the same. So we in Belgium, as you know, it's a strange country. We are a socialist country, so we don't like to work that much. So at Thursday night we stop, we end our week. We end our week, and that means that on Friday we don't work. And so my grandfather always said had the idea so that the bright beer tank had to be empty. The bright beer tank had to be empty for the next week, because if you would keep the beer until Monday, the quality would be less. So always the old beer which was left over on Thursday went into the storage tank. And so we have a lot of storage tanks in which we kept the old beer. And the Monks Grand Cru, in that tank, we only select our triple beer, mainly our Augustine Grand Cru. That beer goes into a coated tank, and we keep the beer for roughly about, average-wise, about 3 years. And we conserve the beer at a temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, which would be in Fahrenheit then 75, 76, something like that. We add some acid bacteria, we let the beer sour, and then we blend it with a young beer, with a very light beer, and that's mainly what we use for this one, is our light Sparta beers or light lager. We're going to blend those two, and then we add some caramel. And then you have a very beautiful balance between the sourness and the sweetness, which makes this beer. It's insane. It's one of the best beers which I have made over the last years. It's one of my own creations. And the difference between the Monks Grand Cru and the classic Monks is that the classic Monks can be a lot of different varieties of beer. It could be like the Augustine Blonde, it could be the Born Triple, it could be the Pirate, but to be sure, only blonde beer. No dark beers are involved in this beer. And it was on one of my first trips when I went to America. It was with the previous owners of Global Beer, and I went to a bar, and it is Monk's Café in Philadelphia with Tom Peters, and he was a huge fan of Bios Vlaamse Bourgogne. And he told me, I told him, said, okay, Tom, I have an issue. I think we are going to discontinue. We are going to discontinue the production of Bios Vlaamse Bourgogne. He said, that's impossible. That's impossible. You have to continue the beer. Then I said, let me convince my grandfather. At that time, my grandfather, Van Steenberge, that's something which is normally equal to stubborn people. So they have their mind, they go for it, and it's very difficult to change them. And in this case, the only way to convince my grandfather was when you talk about hectoliters. How much beer are you going to sell? So at that time of production, I remember like it was yesterday, our production was about 90 hectoliters. So I came back from America, and I told to my grandfather, I said, hey, I have a customer who is prepared to buy 100 hectoliter. Oh yes, we do it, we do it. Forget about the discontinuation of the beer, we will make Monks. And that's why we named the beer after Tom Peters' bar, and I think it's a huge success. Last year we won, and you imagine, we won the gold medal in Old Brown. That's something because I do believe I am trained by my grandfather, and my grandfather always told me, Jeff, if you want to be a good brewer, you have to stick to one variety of beer. Our brewery is too small to do all those different types of varieties, spontaneous fermentation that we don't do, but let's say bottom fermentation, high fermentation, and Old Brown. To have all that in one brewery is something which is almost impossible. But I'm very proud that last year I won a medal, a gold medal with this beer. Cheers.
That's amazing. Can you tell us who's sitting in the barrel? And I know it's a relative, but it kind of, if you were a hipster, if you were a hipster barber in Brooklyn, that would be you. But keep going.
No, some people say that that I look like him. Jozef Schelvoud is the second generation in our brewery, and he's sitting on a barrel, and that's how we were supplying the beer to the local bars. And it's a copy of the original painting. Is in a bar in the city of Ghent. It's called Devil's Bar, a bar from hell. and there the original painting is. And he seems to have short legs, but it's not true. It's
It's a
the
big
painter
barrel.
was not that good. Huh?
It's a big. It's
But
a big barrel.
he was also a pioneer, because he was the guy who had the first pub of the brewery outside of our village. And thanks
And
to
what year was that, Jeff? What year?
that should be in the early 1825, 1830.
Buddy, his whole look right now, the mustache, the outfit, the fedora. I mean, he could be in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, opening a coffee shop. He's ahead of his time.
That's
Unbelievable.
for sure.
Doing
Cheers to
pour
that.
over coffee. All right, so I'm going to introduce the Augustine. That's our next one in our tour here. I can speak for everyone at Global Beer Network, especially Shahan and Ed Kane. We literally will go to any length to find this beer and seek it out as soon as we get to Ghent. To me, it's the most iconic beer that you brew from a flavor aspect. It's just, I have, you can drink Belgian blonde ale through all different types of breweries and you get the same kind of flavors. There are a lot of beautiful ones, but there is something distinctive about Augustine, the flavor. It's almost like I say sourdough, but it doesn't do it justice. There's such a distinctive flavor that is addictive to that beer. So let's introduce it. It's my favorite. It's my desert island beer.
It's the beer which is that we have to thank a lot to, because if we would not have started with Augustijn, there would be no Brouwerij Van Steenberge. That's for sure. It has everything to do with the revival of our brewery. So in 1975, my grandfather was in a competition with 3 other brewers, and he attempted the recipe to make Augustijn beer. Until that moment, we were not having any experience on high fermentation beers. It was a low fermentation lager beer facility, which has been introduced when the Germans came to visit us the first time and the second time. So the beer market had changed, and lager beer was the leading beer. But my grandfather said at that time, so it was after the Second World War, in the early 60s and 70s, it was becoming very difficult for brewers like us. It was very difficult for my grandfather. He had a brewery. He was managing the brewery together with his sister, Cecile van Steenberge. And like I said, the politics was the brewery could only grow if they bought more pubs. More pubs was more customers was more production. But a lot of brewers stopped and they became distributors. And the distributors were very powerful people. They had a lot of money and they were buying the bars. So my grandfather did not have the power anymore to buy the best location. And if you want to have a good bar, you need to have a good location. Good location is very important. And he said, I cannot compete anymore. So one of his best friends at that moment was Mr. Moortkat from the Duvel Brewery. And at that moment, my grandfather was also the president of the Brewers Association in Belgium. And he said to Joseph, you have to change. You have to start to make specialty beer. But like specialty today, it seems common. But in those days, it was like it was lightning in Cologne. It was something which was not known. And so my grandfather said, yes, I'm going to do this. So he said, I have to do something. So why should I not try this? And lucky for us that he did that, because if he would not have done this, the brewery would no longer exist. And he said, on one condition, I'm going to make you a beer. So he bought the recipe, he bought the brand. Until today, we still pay royalties to the Augustinian monastery. And he said, but you have to also give me your advisor, your brew master. And it's Janus Jeromanus, to which we have named one of the 3 yeast varieties which we have in our beer, is named after him. And he said he has to come and work for us. So he became our advisor, and he learned us everything about high fermentation beers and second fermentation. Now everybody speaks about it, but that's what I say: craftsmanship, ownership, entrepreneurship in 1978.
Yeah.
Before somebody believed in specialty beer, he was already on the track. But it was with a lot of ups and a lot of downs, like it goes in life.
Well, thank God he did it, because that's, you know, like I said, one of my favorite beers. Little special shout out in that picture is Andre, right? And how old is he now?
Andre is now, he's 69, turning 70.
He looks exactly the same.
The longest guy working in the brewery. He has a record of 45 years. And I have to thank a lot to him. I've learned everything from him, or a lot from him. And he's the first guy which I meet in the morning. I love to start early mornings. I start at 5 o'clock in the brewery, and the first guy that I meet at 6 o'clock is Andre. And until today, he's still here. He's my right hand. He's my left hand. He's almost everything, and I'm very grateful with him. So I would say cheers to Andre. Huh?
Cheers.
So to go back to the Augustine Monastery, it's not an abbey beer, it's a monastery beer. So there are quite some differences between abbeys and monasteries. Of course, you all know the Trappist beers. You have the Trappist beers. Trappist beers have to be produced by Cistercians, and they have to be produced in between the walls of the abbey. And the chief of the abbey is also the chief of the monastery. Then you have abbey beers and monastery beers. People always speak about abbey beers, but almost nobody speaks about monastery beers. So what is now the difference between an abbey and a monastery? This is a story that I want to share with you, if you allow me, then. I would like to share this story with you because it's quite interesting. So you have to go back into history. I speak now about the 10th, 11th, 12th century. So when abbeys were created, so you first had the abbey, and then a city was created around the abbey. For example, the Bornem Abbey. And you first had the abbey, and because there was economical activity, people were installing themselves around the abbey. And in a monastery, it's the way around. A monastery, you first have the city. Like, for example, the city of Ghent has been founded in 1107. It was because two rivers, the Schelde and the Leie, came together, and people were hooking up there, and they saw that because there's a lot of people start to misbehave. And they asked then to religious people, please come to a city to keep an eye on the people, and then they will behave maybe a little bit better. So monasteries you will find always at the outside of the city. An abbey you find inside the city. First the abbey, then the city. In a monastery you have first the city and then the abbey. This has a huge impact how they are structured. The chief of an abbey is what we call is an abbot. The abbot is indicated by God, and he's appointed for the rest of his life. In a monastery it's differently. A monastery takes a little bit more the jurisdiction of a democracy. There you have the chief of the abbey is called the prior. If you see to a beer which is called prior, it means that it comes from a monastery and not from an abbey. And the prior is indicated by his equals, and he's elected. And then another advantage that you have when you become the prior, you can become the provincial. The provincial is responsible for many more abbeys in his district. Now because as you know that religions, people are getting smaller, it is the province of Western Europe. So Augustinian monks are not dedicated to their abbey, but they are dedicated to their orders. So today they can be in the monastery in Ghent, which you see there on your left side, or they can be dedicated to an abbey in Spain or in France or somewhere else. So the Abbey of Augustine, which we have here, is created in 1295. So which also there was a brewery. And then I come back to the story. What is another difference? If you become a member of an abbey, you have to give all your belongings to the abbey. If you become a member of the monastery, you just give your income and your interest on your belongings goes to the monastery. Which means that a lot of rich people preferred that their children went to the monastery to have a decent education. The only thing that they lost was their interest and not their income. If you become a member of an abbey, you lose everything. So you see that's a huge development. You see that monasteries are picking up through the time because it was a very good form of education, and and you were sure when your child had a decent education, you could pull them back out of the monastery and get them into your business.
They remind me
to be a little bit to finalize this, it's more like an abbey is a closed order, a monastery is an open order, and that's the biggest difference.
It reminds me. It reminds me a
Yeah.
lot of like the Jesuit educators, and we see it in a lot of universities like Boston College. But I believe right outside of Teresa's, which is a very good account in PA, I believe it's Villanova University is actually an Augustinian university. So there's definitely that feeling of education in that order. So you need to be able to travel, right, in that sense, if you're going to be worldly. Yeah.
So the Augustine, what's special about the beer, I always forget to speak about the beer, but that's what it's all about. What I do like in this beer, for the second fermentation, we use a wild yeast, the Germanis yeast. And the Germanis yeast it's like you have a Brett and no machine, like you have in your Val or other beers. This is a yeast which works very slowly. To have a decent Augustine, the beer needs to be at least 4 months old. And then it will slightly goes up until 1.5 years. Then it will stabilize, and then it will go slightly down. But I love this beer. This is the beer that you can drink the whole night. This is the beer, like you see on the picture, on which you can go out. Then tell us the stories that we have experienced in Plan B.
Yeah, so
Plan B. It's always good to have a Plan B.
It's for sure. Sitting alongside the river is one of the best things you can do in Ghent. And there's definitely pubs that allow you to do that. But your feet are literally overhanging a wall into the river. We go here all the time when we visit Ghent. The perception of Belgian beer, and thank God for it, because we wouldn't be here without this, is that it's a Belgian beer bar and there's tin tackers and the floors stick a little bit and you have this unbelievable vast selection of beers. But in reality, when you go to Belgium, Brussels, but specifically Ghent, you go to a pub, there's 10 or 15 bottles, you have your Trappists, you have your local specialties, which Van Steenberge is a part of that in Ghent, and you sit outside. Obviously, the Belgians don't always get non-rainy days, so when the sun's out, you guys are outside, you're drinking outside, it's social, it's more than just geeking out on beers, the beer is part of life. In this bar particularly, you have some sliced, not prosciutto, but some ham, right? Can't call it prosciutto, but ham. We're sitting on the river. We're actually, on that picture on the left, we were sitting on the street. If that was New York City, we both would have been clubbed and dragged away. So I used
to stay above the bar at the first floor because that was an apartment that my grandfather could not rent. And I had an agreement with my grandfather and the bar owner. And I called my grandfather every Sunday evening. I said, for next week, can you put an extra keg on my account? And on my account, it means that my grandfather put an extra keg and I had to work 8 hours to deserve the keg. And in that time, it was mainly lager. And I made an agreement with the bar owner, and the bar owner told me, okay, Jeff, we split the keg. You can drink your beer for free, but a keg is 180 consumptions of 25 cl, and half for you, half for me. So you can imagine that in those times, I had a lot of friends. Right? And I remember that many times I closed the bar, and we throw the glasses from the side into the river. I think if you would take out what is in the river, I think I could start a glass store or glass factory.
I love it. That's it. That's it's natural, right? It's like stone. There's probably a couple of eel and some Van Steenberge glassware. That's fine. I wanted to mention this real quick, and we don't have to stay on it, and I hope I'm not outing, to me, what is one of the best kept secrets of your region. Augustine, for me, I consider it the optimal food beer. There's not one pairing that doesn't work. Steak, the spiciness works. Spicy food, the ABV is a little bit strong. It can hold up to it. Touch of sweetness with dessert. But mussels in Augustine is a beautiful thing. But there's actually a little town where in the center of it, there is a mussel shell with all restaurants located around it. Can you give us maybe in a minute a little explanation of Philippine, why it's in the Netherlands, and how special a place it is?
You want to hear my story about how I think about the Dutch, or do you want to hear my story about the mussels?
Do the mussels.
Okay, good. Let's stay polite.
Your
I do
reputation
know
with
that
the Dutch is very good.
some people from Maine are joining us, but I have to be honest. These mussels are the best mussels of the world. So the mussels goes to the Westerschelde, to the sea where they are washed. Then they go to Ierzeke where they are cleaned, and then they go to Philippine. It's a small town just across the border, because I can say this: the Dutch, they don't have any food culture. But when it goes to mussels, they are the best, because they are under influence of the Flemish people. But so those mussels are so good. Yeah, and
There's
the
supple,
beer,
but the escargot.
the best. It's a small town, Philippine. They live 4,000 people, but they have, I think, 16 or 17 mussel restaurants, and all the Belgians, they go there to eat mussels. I have one account, the Oude Haven. So if Frans would be listening, my best regards. He is normally doing about 2 ton mussels a day. Can you imagine?
Just unbelievable. But that's escargot.
My favorite there is on the left. It's the moule à l'escargot.
Yeah.
Which I learned you to eat.
Yeah, and they give you this big loaf of country bread that it's airy, it's beautiful, and you dunk that in the garlic oil, and you could be full up to here with food. You're gonna dunk and dunk. It is debaucherous. And then last time we were there, I said, "All right, Jeff, I'm here with beer and food." He goes, "No, come on, my friend, you will take ice cream and Irish coffee." It was up to how I didn't just come out of my nose with food and ice cream. I have no idea, but it settled in, and it was actually a nice day. So I guess you were right. So let's get to the beer I'm drinking.
Yeah, Brewed. I have, guys, let us be honest. Brewery Van Steenberge is the house of tradition, is the house of high fermentation, is the house of re-fermentation. We are the inventors of strong blondes. And I'm saying always the same. It's an IPA by history. I do know for you guys it's not an IPA, but for me it's IPA by history. This is what was not existing before. This what inspired the IPA industry today, but it's something which is beyond. It's something which is, yeah. And now everybody speaks about strong blondes. About this is the godfather of strong blondes. Forget Duvel, forget other brands. This is what's all about. This is a beer which I enjoy. This is a beer which I like to drink when I smoke a cigar. It's a perfect match. It's the beer which forgets me to what happened during the day. It's the beer which say I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to have the beer, and I'm so proud. I'm so proud that we won together in USA the World Cup.
Yep.
I think it was one of our most beautiful experience which we have. And the beauty of this beer is that it's so well in balance. For being a beer of 10.5, sometimes I have the impression that I'm drinking a lemonade. It goes in like, okay, it's smoothie. And I have had so many nice moments with these beers, and sometimes we forget because the competition in strong blonde is only became bigger and bigger. But this is a beer which stands out. This is a beer which don't have its beer next to it. This is for the real beer lover. This is something of which I'm very proud. And my grandfather made this beer in 86. This was the first production of Brewed. Can you imagine a beer which is over more than 30 years, still on the market and still very well appreciated? But we just have to get people familiar with the product and say, oh, wow, is this 10.5? And this I will speak more about later, but this is all has to do with high fermentation and re-fermentation. That's what it's all about. And that's why when I started the construction of this new building, which is below me, it is okay. We were able to make very good beer. But our problem was to have consistently good beer. And I always remember the words of my grandfather. Why did he started to produce refermentation? Because we were afraid of oxidation of the beer. How could you take away the oxidation of the beer? You could take away the oxidation of the beer by adding yeast, which would eat the oxygen, which is coming into a beer during the production. And I've been working many years together with Koen here internally on how to improve. One of the most important things, or one of the biggest issues which we had, is stable temperature. Working on a natural way. Working on having patience. How do you make such a quality beer? Not by pasteurization. You make such a top beer by having patience and having the good cooling techniques. We are blessed. We are blessed because I do think that of the 7 yeast varieties which we have in our breweries, they're all phenomenal. And they're all made to cover with high alcohol content. But then on top of that is the natural way how we work. After the fermentation, we put our beer into our lager periods and we kill our basic yeast, not by pasteurization, but we do this on a natural way by cold. And my grandfather learned me the German words. Sorry for speaking some words in German, but it's cold, cold but langsam. So we had to do cold but very slowly. That's how we break down the basic yeast, not by pasteurization. By pasteurization, you give the beer a heat shock. We do believe in living beers. Good today, better tomorrow, but of course I prefer that you drink it yesterday. But that was a joke, but it's true. And we do believe that second fermentation makes the beer alive. We will re-add yeast and sugar to balance out the high alcohol. Gulden Draak or Piraat, without second fermentation, it's like an alcoholic bomb. But the second fermentation will balance out the high alcohol content. And I installed a whole new yeasting and lager facility like it should be, with all the experience that we have built up over the last 100 years. If we would do it right, what should we do? And all in respect for the quality of the product. May is saying from, listen, okay, patience, temperature. You cannot force nature, and that you have to respect. You have to respect your yeasting period, you have to respect your lager period, and then you do your second fermentation. And you have to keep your yeast culture in top condition. So the viability and the vitality of the yeast, when I was attending in the past about 70%, now we are 95, 98, which is insane. And that you taste, the product is so good. And every time I'm convinced that this is the best beer of the world, but I have to convince you. Of course, there are other beers, but it's all about taste. Yeah. I know you are convinced. That's why we start to work together.
No, yeah, but honestly, it's something we see, and I don't want to discourage or put down local craft breweries and stuff like that. But I try to tell people this with Belgians in general, the real true Belgian breweries with tradition and very consolidated portfolios, they're brew house. I mean, you can tell us how many kilometers of stainless steel tubing that is, but you've built your brewery to do one thing: brew high fermentation beer. So when local brewery who's maybe brewing an IPA all day does a one-off release of a high fermentation beer, yeah, they can pull off some good product, no doubt. But day in, day out, 24/7, 365, are they going to have a consistent high fermentation beer? No, probably not, because it's a very complicated, a lot of energy. It needs to be cooled down. The yeast are working hard. A lot of off flavors can happen. There's a lot of engineering and science behind brewing high fermentation beer. And these pictures are not to say, oh, Brewery Van Steenberge, they have a lot of flashy, cool equipment. No, that flashy, cool equipment is achieving an unbelievably remarkable goal, which is brewing high fermentation beer consistently every time, the same. Like that
exactly.
has to be.
and we're always looking for well-balanced beers. And my grandfather said it's easy. It's not easy. It's easy to make extreme beer, or extremely sour, or extremely hoppy. No, what we do make, we try to make balance. We try to make balance, and I want you to discover each time when you drink this beer, you discover something new. And I can say that with the investment that we have made, that the quality has improved with 30%, and we are still learning. It's amazing how much we have, how much steps we have made forward, of which I was not even known about, because I've been raised by my grandfather, which was very traditional, and I always said, oh, watch out for this and that. But the techniques have been involved, went forward so much times. So yeah, it was an investment that it would have made already 5, 6, 7 years ago. Okay, it is like it is, and I'm very happy that we have done it, and it proves that at the end, quality will always survive.
Yeah, I think it's the Bruce Lee quote, and I'm sure there's sales reps from Global Beer who are going to roll their eyes because I say the same thing over and over, but Bruce Lee said it. He's not afraid of the person that knows 1,000 moves. He's afraid of the guy that's done one move 1,000 times. And to me, that is the real remarkably great import brands achieve that. They're really good at what they do, and I think that has as much merit, depending on your opinion, as someone who can brew a bunch of different styles and stay up to trend and make a drinkable product that the market wants. That is impressive, but equally impressive, to me a little bit more impressive, is someone who can brew the same thing consistently day in, day out. We can't forget that. Just to speak a little about Pirat, I'm just going to throw this out here. You know, all of Jeff's beers, and I hope you guys are getting a sense of this, getting a sense of our relationship, his relationship with Global Beer Network. We have fun. As much as we take our beers seriously, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun. Talk Like a Pirate Day, September 19th. We have some great customers here. Chris Bettini, who's obviously a Gulden Draak ambassador, down there in the right corner. I believe Beerhead Market in Pittsburgh. 4th Avenue Ale House in New York. We've all had great times on Talk Like a Pirate Day. I would hope by September 19th, we are back in the pubs. Please, please, let's get back out there. So let's go to the next beer, Jeff. We're kicking it up a notch. How are you feeling right now? I feel fantastic.
I feel fantastic, but I have to say that the Pirat is getting in. It's getting in. For me, it's about 10 o'clock or how much?
11,
what is that? 10
11,
o'clock?
my friend.
10 o'clock?
Yeah.
So I started at 4 this morning. So but it's good. It's good. I enjoy it.
Hey.
What can be better than a good beer and good company?
I'm gonna sleep in my baby's crib tonight.
Yeah. Lucky that I'm not anymore in that stage of life. But each stage is nice.
You pulled it off,
so,
man.
The next beer, the Gulden Draak. Yeah, Gulden Draak. This is about this brewery. That's where we stand for. Gulden Draak is beyond. So Gulden Draak is the nectar of heaven. It is the beer which made me see the world differently. Sometimes by drinking too much, sometimes by being surprised how much it has changed the beer culture. I think by Gulden Draak in general, I speak in general, how many craft beer brewers have been inspired by this beer. This is a beer which I think, I'm always triggered by people who say, I don't drink beer. I say, no, listen, I think you don't drink beer because you know what is all available in the spectrum of beer. And then I say, if you don't drink beer, please, follow me. If you don't like beer, then I think, if you don't like something that we produce, then I really think that you are a difficult person. And then I think you have other issues. But I do think that Gulden Draak 9000, that was one of my first creations when I started to be taking control over the brewery. I wanted to make, but the beer has been made by mistake. The beer has been made by mistake, and sometimes good mistakes can have good results. And so I called it 9000. So the 9000, Gulden Draak 9000 refers to the postcode of our beautiful city. We're always traveling around the world, but I think this is what it is. It doesn't get better than this. And here you have the beautiful picture of where Ghent is known about. You have the St. Nicholas Church, you have the Belfry, and you have the St. Basque Cathedral. So the first one on your right, this is something special to me. There in that church, we even have a draft account. So
the beer behind
if
you,
you go
Jeff.
to, yeah, on your right side.
Beer. Get your beer. She's
I-
serving
I-
the beer.
sorry,
Don't
sorry.
keep your head on a
too much.
swivel.
I'm too much engaged. But on the right side, there's a draft account. If you go to service on Sunday and you arrive 50 minutes before, you get 2 tickets for free beer after service. Can you imagine? If you get only on time, you only get 1 ticket. So I think it's probably the only account in the entire world in church where we have a draft account. It's phenomenal. And then, of course, in the middle, you have the belfry. That's our tower. That's our church. That's the Gulden Draak. The dragon stands for independence. It's a remarkable symbol. It's a symbol of independency. It's a symbol of. I'm so in love with that. And then in the back, you have the St. Basque Cathedral, where you have the mystic lamp of the Van Eyck brothers, which is
The
so
Ghent altarpiece, which is considered one of the most important artworks of the Renaissance to kick off the Renaissance. So Ghent is an important city capital of Flanders. I could go all day on Ghent, but let's just take a second to look at this picture. When people go to Belgium and oh, have you been to Belgium? Oh, I went to Europe. I backpacked. I was in Brussels for a day. A little piece of me dies. And of course, Bruges is stunningly gorgeous, but Bruges also kind of goes to bed at like 9 o'clock. Ghent is a college town. It kind of reminds me of Boston in the sense that people are out there. It's Boston with New York hours. That's the first time I've ever said that. But yes, that's what it is.
So there, the picture is taken from the St. Michael's Bridge, and there on your left you have the tower. On your left with the watch, that's a copy of the Big Ben of London. So we were guests for the World Exhibition, and then they made this copy of the Big Ben.
Beautiful. So we get just a few more pictures to hammer home the point. The picture on the top, Global Beer Network. I'm the most spoiled person at Global Beer, I think, and obviously had the opportunity to stay with you for 6 or 7 days. Eric from Lowlands asked how long I stayed when I first met you, but obviously with Global Beer, there's a lot of beer importers that have never sent their salespeople to Belgium. I've lost count. I've been through 2 passports, 18, 20, 30 times. I have no idea. But that is the back, when you walk out of the back of the Marriott in Ghent and you think, oh, I just went to 4 breweries. I'm tired. I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm just going to go in my bed. I'm going to make a little tea. And then I walk out the back and I see that, boom, I'm off and I'm going to a bar because there's people on bikes 2, 3 in the morning. 18, 20, 30-year-olds just out and about all days, all hours of the week. It is one of the best cities in the world. Obviously, we're going to get to the Belfry and the Gulden Draak. Little quick shout out to Sir Chris DeChico, who first came to Belgium and became a Gulden Draak ambassador, but then ultimately got knighted in Belgium. And he shared all his pictures with me because I know it's one of his favorite cities in Europe. He's been to Italy so many times I can't even speak. He's traveled well, and he always says to me when we go out and see those views, he goes, "This is my city." So, cheers, Chris, to Chico's. For those in the Hudson Valley area, if you're looking for Van Steenberge sampler packs, he's your boy. Let's get to the big guns. We're moving at a good clip, Jeff. I'm actually kind of impressed with your pace. I don't know if it's your age or the hour, but we're moving good.
I think it's the light who is helping me. It's the light who is helping me. I feel like I'm a young guy of 25 who is experiencing something new. So it's fun. It's fun.
Good. Well, you're about to have a Gulden Draak, so I hope Teresa put a pillow and a blanket on the couch for you tonight.
No, she's used to that. So normally I used to travel a lot, and now she get used to the fact that I'm staying at home every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know what she's preferring the most. Maybe she will be happy that. Yeah.
Teresa was on, just so everyone knows, the people who know Teresa, Jeff's wife. We'll see a picture at the end of the presentation. very patient woman, lovely woman. She actually came on during our sound check, camera check, to make sure her husband was all set and had everything he needed. A great woman is behind every great man. So cheers to Teresa.
So let's cheers to that. Thank you, Dan.
Hey,
That will cost me another handbag, I think.
there you go.
So, hey, Gulden Draak. This beer, I tell you the story because I love the story. It's a beer which I drink when I have problems with Teresa. This is a beer I drink two, my Teresa drinks one, and all my problems are solved. It's expensive beer, but it's less expensive than a lawyer. I've told this story 100,000 times.
It feels good every time.
No. I'm very proud because my grandfather started to make this beer in '86, and we had an Italian customer. At that time, we were already exporting to Italy, and until today, sorry guys, but it's up to you to change that. But Italy is still our biggest export market. But I think you are close, so we can do better. We can do better. And my English is not good, but believe me, my Italian is worse. So I think together we can do better. So there was an Italian who was coming to the brewery, and my grandfather was making a beer which was called Brewed. And it was a beer for a village close to the brewery in Assenede. And it was like, how do you call it? It's what 1 year festival beer. And I said, okay, the brewery there, Brewery Krul, they stopped to produce, and they asked my grandfather to make this beer. And that Italian came to the brewery, and that beer was fermenting, and he tried the beer, and he said to my grandfather, Mr. Joseph, I would like to have this beer. Well, my grandfather said, no, it's not for sale, because it's very difficult to make. And that time, the yeast culture that we were using for this beer was not adjusted to high alcohol. So the more alcohol content you have, the more stress you create for the yeast, the more difficult it is for the fermentation. So the fermentation took sometimes 3, 4, 5 weeks, so which meant that his fermenter was occupied for such a long time so that he could not use it for other beers. So he was not a big fan. But the Italian insisted. And like I told you in the beginning of the evening, you could convince my grandfather by hectoliters, hectoliter mania, we call it. And so he said to my grandfather, okay, Mr. Joseph, I will buy X amount. In that time, it was like 3 weeks work. So my grandfather said, yes, let's do this. And then he had the idea, why should we not paint the bottle in white? My grandfather, you're crazy. And how would we call it? We call the beer Gulden Draak. We have to honor the statue, and that's how Gulden Draak was born. And the Gulden Draak made what the brewery is today. And when I started to work, my grandfather told me, Jeff, don't put your effort in Gulden Draak. The beer is too strong. This is a beer for people with problems. People with problems will drink this beer.
A lot of people have problems right now.
And
so
at that time we were doing
beer
we were doing 300 hectoliters of Gulden Draak. 300. And I said to my grandfather, no, I do believe in this brand, because this brand is unique. This is something that nobody else has. This is beyond. This is not beer. This goes more into the category of barley wine. This is something which you cannot describe. This is also for the beer lover. This is for the not beer lover. This is for the guy who is not aware of what beer is. Everybody will be convinced of this category of beer. And we made of this beer 35,000 hectoliters. So I'm very proud, because I said I do believe in this brand. This is the DNA of the brewery. This is what we stand for. This is why we use. My grandfather brought in '86, also in '86, '87, he brought a wine yeast from Bordeaux. This is what we are. This is our DNA. This is of what I can say thank you. This is why we are still surviving. This is our future. This is our past. This is what it is today. And I do believe that that we still have to convince a lot of people that this is beyond beer. Eh? And I have to tell the story about Gulden Draak because there's a legend. And this has to do about the Dutch. But I can speak about the Dutch now, Dan, can I?
Yeah, within the context of being friendly.
I will be polite. I will be polite.
Some people have
we have
made
a lot of
comments
Dutch
about
customers. Maybe they are not listening. We should check. Eh?
There's
But
a few.
so if you look at the dragon looks like a Norwegian, a Dakar, a Norwegian ship. So it was a gift from a Norwegian king, Sigmund Rasmussen, when he went on a crusade and he stopped in Constantinople, today known as Istanbul, and he donated a dragon. Then you had Baldwin the Knight. Baldwin the Knight is a Duke of Flanders. He was not only the Duke of Flanders, he was also the Emperor of Constantinople. And he fell in love with the dragon. And he said, because I'm the Emperor of Constantinople, I can do what I want. So he decided to take the dragon to the lower countries. And he built the cathedral. He built the Cathedral of the North. And he built that cathedral because, as you know, our country is flat. So we like biking because there are no hills, it's all flat. And he built the Cathedral of the North. And we have, as you know, we Belgians or we Flemish people, we have like a Roman Catholic culture. We like to party, we like to drink, we don't work that hard, but we work hard. We pay a lot of taxes. Sorry, Alan, but it's not for you, but in general, our women are not that beautiful. But when we drink a few Gulden Draaks, this seems to be much more beautiful. And we don't care that we pay the most taxes of the entire European community. We don't care, because at the end of the day, we drink a Gulden Draak and we are happy. And
I almost spit my drink out there.
So no, and the Dutch are different. The Dutch are Calvinists, so they work even harder than we do. They don't spend, because it cannot be expensive. They don't spend, and they want to have more. But we share. We are people to share, and so. Well, in the 90s, he built that cathedral, and he put a dragon on top of the cathedral, and so the Calvinists, they could see from far, how is that possible? Those Flemish people, they're always partying, and they have a gold statue. So they were very pissed off. They didn't like it. But also the Knights of Ghent and Brewed, they said, hey, what's happening? It's impossible that the dragon is there. The dragon is a symbol of independence, and we want to have the dragon on our most important building. And then they had to fight the Battle of Barneveld in 1382. And in 1382, the Knights of Ghent won that battle and honored the dragon. They put the dragon on top of the belfry in Ghent. And in the belfry, the documents are kept in which it's proven that they have bought the land from the landlords. And until today, the dragon is still there and is protecting the documents of the city. And it's the only dragon in the entire world who doesn't have feet. If you find a dragon without feet, I will pay your weight in free beer. It doesn't exist. There's a belfry in Ypres. There's a belfry with a dragon in Ypres. There's a belfry in Lille. There's a belfry in Ath. But none of those has no feet. So if you find one, I will pay your weight in free beer.
And just so you know,
like you saw on the other slide, is that it's an award-winning beer. It's unbelievable how many awards that we have been winning with this beer in the category of dark triple. I call this a triple, a dark triple. Why I call this a triple? Because the brewer used 3 times as much malt as a normal beer. The more malt, the more sugar, the more alcohol.
One thing to note, and we messed up on this because you're putting all your Larrys in front of it, but behind you is I don't know what you call that, a counter for your Facebook likes. So if anybody on this webinar goes and you don't currently like Brewery Van Steenberge and you go like it, he is going to give you free beer.
Gulden Draak, then Gulden Draak, not Van Steenberge, Gulden Draak. This is the one. There are several ones. Maybe I should. Okay, okay.
You're good. Like Gulden Draak on Facebook. the counter will change. The first person to do it's going to get free Gulden Draak, which GBN will facilitate to the best of our
thank you,
ability and keep you on
Thank you,
track.
Dan.
Yeah, yeah.
Comes from your Nice. Thank you,
There you
guys.
go. Whoever did that, you just won something. It could just be a plastic dragon. It could be a beer. It could be an actual dragon. We don't know. So let's talk about Imperial.
Another one.
Oh God, it's happening, Jeff. You get the magic.
So lucky day, Dan.
You're like a wizard. All right, let's get to Imperial Stout. We're running. I want to get to some questions, so make this as quick as you can. Obviously, this beer is beautiful, so let's introduce it. But then I'm going to move on.
So everybody's always saying to me, Jeff, you should make lighter beer. I said, no, and another one. I'm sorry. Oh, two more.
Stop looking.
So everybody's always saying to me, Jeff, I'm always the opposite. I do things which are against the trends. I do know that the trend goes into lighter beers. I do know that the trend goes into sessionals. I do know this, I do know that, but I don't want to be where everybody wants to be. I want to be where nobody is. And nobody is in this category. I'm making a stout, an Imperial Stout. I wanted to call it an Imperial Russian Stout, but my wife said, no, we don't call it a Russian, we call it Imperial Stout. This, I think, is one of all the beers which I have made. This is a beauty to finish my day.
We had this on the Grand Place with a bunch of people during Belgian Beer Weekend last year. Everyone was amazed. I can't explain this enough. You know, people get so caught up in style guidelines and all that stuff, and I get it. You have to put things in a box so you can use it as a yardstick for what the beer is and how good it is. But really, there is an added value here. You don't lose the sense that you're drinking Gulden Draak. You're just getting a higher roasty malt bill. You're getting chocolate notes. You're getting coffee notes, as if Gulden Draak needed to be more of a dessert beer. But it actually kind of cuts through the sweetness of the beer. So if regular Gulden Draak's a bit too caramel for you, the roastiness really balances out with a little bitterness. So it's a beautiful, beautiful beer.
Yeah.
So Jeff, let's explain this person here, and then we're gonna do a little Q&A.
This makes me very emotional. So this girl, Margriet Schelfout, which is, I made a statue for her, and I was inspired by, if you come to Ghent, you go to the Museum of Modern Art, and they have a statue of Jan Faber, is the man who was measuring the clouds. And you come into the village and you see that statue on the Museum of Modern Art. And I said, listen, Ali, I'm here thanks to the previous generations. And Margriet, and that was also my first lesson from my grandfather. When I started the first day on 21st of June in 1999, I started to work in the brewery, and my grandfather told me, he said, so now you shut up and you sit down, and I will tell you a story. And he told to me, he said, Jeff, this brewery still exists because I had a very strong mother, so my bad grandmother. And after the Second World War, when her husband, Paul van Steenberge, was in charge, he was a microbiologist, he was a senator, he was a mayor of the city, he was very into politics. And one day he comes home and he tells his wife, he said, Margriet, I have sold the brewery and to become the president of the new Brewers Association, which is called the Kruger. And she said, hey, Paul, what are you saying? First of all, it's my brewery. I'm born as a brewer's daughter. I died as a brewer's daughter. I'm going to die as a brewer's daughter. I promised my grandfather and my father that the brewery will stay independent. And you have nothing to sell. Can you imagine? Now today, man and woman are equal, but in those days, it was not like that. So my grandfather told me the lesson. He said, Jeff, you never have the right to sell the brewery. Your job is to pass the brewery from the 6th to the 7th generation. You don't sell. If you sell, I will flip around. I will turn myself into my graveyard. So that was thanks to this beautiful woman, we are sitting here today together. And I'm so proud of her. And I made a statue. You see her on the right. She's sitting on the right there. My grandfather is on the extreme left, and my bad grandfather is standing up. And so when we did the building, but I made the statue a little bit smaller than she is because I had to pay the statue by the weight. So I said, hey, watch out, because otherwise I have more construction work to do. But I'm so proud that she's sitting here, and she is saluting everybody who's driving to our beautiful Lindelaan. The Lindelaan you can compare with the Champs-Élysées in Paris. It's almost the same.
Who's sitting on the left in that family picture? Because
that's my grandfather, Joseph.
His sock again.
Joseph, and then his three sisters.
We see
and
once
with
again
his
fashion.
in the blue, and his sister in the blue was Cecil, and she was managing the brewery together with my grandfather.
His sock game is again ahead of his time. The people in your family, fashion-wise, are on par with the 21st century. This is incredible.
That's not like me. That's not like me.
No, you do all right. You have nice
I'm
shoes.
going now at branded shirts, etc. It's another style.
That's it. So, guys, I mean that's the flight of beers. We have a few questions, but I wanted to hit a few points. I hope that you got something from the webinar. I hope that you learned about the beers. But I know from Global Beer Network's perspective, see Steve Villani, Cliff Lusso, Christy Hansen. Jeff is fun. The beers are sophisticated, and they can go to any account. They can go high end. They can go to the pubs. They can go to your outdoor cafe. But if you're a retailer, if you're a consumer, if you're a wholesaler, if you're not having fun selling these brands, you're doing something wrong. Do not apologize for anything about them. They're high ABV. They're obviously imported, so they're not going to be like Bud Light in price. Be proud to sell these beers, but also have fun selling these beers. I hope a little bit of Jeff's energy comes out today. That's what it's about. I mean, it's nice to sell sophisticated beers, but it's a lot of fun too. Obviously, you see Eric from Lowlands, Neil from Superstar, Christy Hansen, our VP of Sales, Steve on the right, myself on the right corner. We're always laughing. We're always having a good time. You say crazy stuff, but it's all light. It's all fun. Your hospitality is always top notch. You make everyone feel great. You got JF from Taste of Belgium, Summit Beer Station, Beer Yard, Teresa's, and obviously I have to mention Ariel from Chile because I mean he's a super fan. I don't know if he's a member of the family. I don't know if he can change his name legally.
It could be
but
my son.
I think I was surprised you said son because I was gonna say he's either a brother or just your cousin from Chile. I don't know which one, but either way.
It's my brother from Chile.
Yeah, he's beautiful. So again, and then it's ultimately family. Just so you know, no children consume beer in these pictures. It was just staged for the fun and to hammer home the point. If you're on this webinar, my guess is that if you weren't considered family, you are now. And that's really what it's all about here. That's what Van Steenberge is about. That's what drinking Gulden Draak's about. We're in quarantine in New York. This is the most fun I've had in probably a month, 2 months. So thank you for that. Let's get to
one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing before the questions. Here, Teresa, the beautiful Teresa.
Teresa, what's up, buddy?
I hope you can read this.
I can't read anything. Oh,
no,
that's my boy.
To you. It's
Mason.
For your boy.
Yes.
Mason Alfred Lehman. We will drink this beer when you get to the brewery.
I love it. So
this beer. I will keep this beer here, safe in my aging closet for the time you and your boy come here and we drink it together as one big family.
Buddy,
thank you for the support.
Flights are cheap right now, so we might have to put it in the bottle.
No, you have to wait until he can drink. The guy is 2 weeks old. Wait a little bit.
Yeah, put a
or
water
you can
down.
give it to the mother so he can drink it to the breast. That's also
technicality. That's what we call a loophole here. Two questions. Obviously we're running on time. I marked an hour and 20 for this, but let's get to two questions that I think are both hilarious and funny. Let me get to one is from Jeff, you've said before that Gulden Draak never gives you a hangover. If I drink 4 Gulden Draak, I get a hangover. Am I drinking too much or too little?
No, it's a lack of practice.
Okay. And
It's a lack
then
of practice.
next question. The white wrapping on Gulden Draak, does that help with the quality of the beer from being light struck?
Exactly. So when the beer is protected by, so dark beers do age better than blonde beers, but by putting the beer into a white bottle, it's much better protected, and so you can age the beer much longer.
Great. And then we're gonna do one more if I can find it. I don't know if I can. Oh, Stu Stewart is asking, which pub did you say that painting of your uncle on the barrel was residing in before you brought it back to the brewery?
Café from Hell
Where's that?
in Ghent, in the Paterzol. It's now it's like a Thai bar.
Really? No,
Yes,
someone
you
else
can still
asked.
find it.
Someone else asked the question, but there's just no way it's happening. I have to properly toast Teresa. We're getting to the end here, Teresa. You're awesome. I gave you credit earlier, and I have this recorded. So even though you weren't on here,
Yes, giving you some credit.
so it already happened. Jeff's gonna take care of you. It's all good. And guys, this is the most important thing. It's COVID. I think we're getting to the end of this thing in the sense that we just need to be patient for one more month. Maybe we have to wear masks. Maybe we have to stay 6 feet apart. But we can always be drinking Gulden Draak together like this. It unites people. So keep calm. Drink Gulden Draak. Jeff, cheers, my friend.
And I would like to thank you guys. We have survived world wars. We have survived other crises. We survived this. And you're all more than welcome in our family brewery. And let's drink to the future.
Cheers,
Nothing will
guys.
kill us. We have the future with us.
That's going to be your
And we're
legacy.
there to support you guys. Thank you.
That's going to be your legacy. All the Belgian brewers say, "Oh, this grandmother got through World War I, World War II." You're the brewer that got through COVID. That's something. So guys, that's it for us. Next week, it's going to be our final webinar with Carl Bone, the next generation of Brewery Bone. Obviously, Jeff, you know Frank very well. I think you've called him Uncle Frank in the past. If you want to know about spontaneous fermentation, lambics, these guys are for you. We're getting to the end of our tour. It's been awesome. I'm going to miss this. Jeff, if I could stay on with you right now, I would, but I'm not. You're going to go to bed. Teresa's going to help you get downstairs.
Cheers. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Follow us on social. Cheers, guys.